Ooh. Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt star in The Electric State, a Netflix movie that tells the tale of a young girl trying to find her long-lost brother. And it's based on a source material of a book that a lot of people like. Comes in at 2 hours and 5 minutes. The runtime is an issue for this movie because it does have some pacing issues. It's got some tone issues, but the cast is actually pretty good. Beyond Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown, it's got Stanley Tucci, Kiwi Kwan, Woody Harrelson appears in this as a voice, Mr. Peanut. Oh, wait. But, guys, Alan Tudyk is Cosmo. Yes. And Anthony Mackie is the voice of Herm. So as you can see, in this movie, straight up, the visual effects are there. They spent $350 million on this. Oh, God. What? Holy smokes, Netflix. What are you doing? It does try to have some heart in here, though. These action sequences don't really stick with you, though, after the film is done. It's just, that's a bunch of CG stuff. It's competently done CG stuff. The heart of this movie is the brother-sister story of her trying to find the brother that got taken away from her. And I did a full live reaction to this up on the main channel. And when I watched it, it felt a little bit like that movie Labyrinth. Remember how the sister in Labyrinth went into, the labyrinth to get her brother back? And it's sort of like that, but with robots. And Chris Pratt, who hams it up in this to the max, to the extreme. But if you're a fan of Pratt, then you should know what to expect. Let's go over to the score sheet and put up some numbers here. For The Electric State, acting and directing and story are out of a possible 2 points each. Cinematography and score are out of 1 possible point. Acting, Stanley Tucci is the bad guy in this. You know that. You should know that. Acting, it's competent. I really like. I'm a big Millie Bobby Brown fan. I liked her movie Damsel. I like the Enola Holmes films. I, of course, loved her in The Stranger Things, and we're going to do season 5 reactions when it comes out. But it's serviceable. There's no scene in it that makes you go, ooh, wow, you got to check it out because of this. Kiwi Kwan is just kind of thrown in there. Mark Webb, the Russo brothers directed this. Even Joe Russo just came out and said, this movie cost $350 million. I don't know how this business model doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. This is mind-boggling. But the technical aspects are there. It's shot well. The visual effects are integrated in with the live action very well. It's just not memorable. The story is based on a really interesting concept, and it's got that labyrinth vibe to it. But by the end of it, that emotional center, it will work for some. And I was this close to saying that, okay, it's got that big anchor where it'll be like, you got to check it out because of how this thing unfolds. But it misses the mark. And a lot of that goes on the directors because this movie tries to be serious, right? It tries to take itself seriously, but all the dialogue is very childish, cartoony. But then they're like dropping F-bombs, S this, crap that, and it's just, it feels jumbled up with not a cohesive identity. That's the best way that I can explain Electric State. And I think that's probably where I'm going to land for a story. Cinematography and score. It does have some interesting needle drops if you are into that kind of stuff. I'm not going to, like, it's not a soundtrack or a score that I want to go and buy, so there you go. Cinematography, though, I will give the full point to because of those big visual. You saw the robot and all those robots. It's all well done. 4.5 is where we're sitting. Let's go over to the tomato meter, and I will try to wrap this up quickly because it's got a 15% by critics, 72 by the audience. A lot of that audience score, I think, is fueled probably by Millie Bobby Brown fans, Chris Pratt fans. If you are curious about the book, maybe you will want to check out what this is all about, and some things you might give a pass to because of Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt. The critics, 15%, were really harsh on this. It's not as terrible as a 15%. Trust me, guys, I've seen my share of bad movies. Look at my resume if you want to, and you'll be like, okay, it's not as bad as, say, Borderlands. Okay, so, well, that's not saying that much, James. The beats of the Russo brothers movies are so predetermined they don't bear lingering on, but the Electric State might be the first time they've opted out to skip over them altogether. This movie made me cry, and not in a good way. So it's long. It's 2 hours, and this is a movie that should have been an hour and 35 minutes. Egads, there are a couple of hours wasted, potential squandered. I understand actors have to work, but dang, have some standards. Did they phone it in? I've seen some of that being said. Did they phone it in? Millie Bobby Brown always delivers good lines. She does. There's nothing in her line deliveries that you'll be like, ugh. But it was that for me from Pratt, because just the way that he was always talking and yelling his lines, and it's like, we know Chris Pratt can act, so I don't blame the script, and I don't blame Pratt. I blame the directors. And that's why you're going to get a low score, 15%. Let's try to wrap that up. Wrapping up my score sheet here. Watchability factor. If you are curious about the source material and want to see how it got adapted, if you're a Millie Bobby Brown fan, Chris Pratt fan, 5.5 out of 10 is probably where I would land. And yep, that's about it for me. The Electric State. It's not one that I'm going to revisit. It's just a movie that came. It did its thing. I'm sorry that you spent $350 million on that, Netflix. I still think that you would have been better off taking that $350 million and making like 15 attempts at trying to make a Godzilla -1. 15 attempts, really. Because Godzilla -1 only had a $15 million budget, so no, you could have made more than 15 attempts, maybe 20 attempts. Instead, you got one case of the Electric State. Oi! All right, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and we will talk about it. If you want to see other reviews here on the channel, by all means, we just reviewed the Snow White film as well. Oi! Yeah. Okay. Let me know what you thought, and we'll talk about it in the comments below. You're watching Mirror Domains.